future me here. The footage you're gonna see with Killer Instinct is going to be the Super Game Boy enhanced footage. I didn't know this, but the emulator I'm using to record the footage, MGBA, actually defaults to Game Boy games that have SGB compatibility. It just defaults to that version. So yeah, just so you guys know, you will be seeing the Game Boy enhanced Super Game Boy version of Killer Instinct. So just so you know, um, I didn't know that, but still cool for you guys. You guys get to see the best version of it. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. And here it is, Killer Instinct on the Game Boy. Check it out. Alright, now we're going way back to the Game Boy era. And we're going to talk about the best fighting game that was released on there. Mortal Kombat. No, I'm just kidding. Don't click off. I am kidding. It's not Mortal Kombat. I know. I am aware that game is terrible. Trust me. I own it. I own Mortal Kombat 1, 2, Combo Kart, and MK3. I have owned MK4 in the past as well. I know all those games are terrible. MK3 is not that bad, but like MK1 is probably the worst Game Boy game I have ever played in my entire life, and probably the worst game out there that's ever been released on the platform. But seriously, today I'm going to talk about just like a Game Boy specific version, I'm going to call it, of a fighting game that not a lot of people really talk about. And I was just talking to my friend about this last weekend, and we were talking about like really bad Game Boy games and like fighting games because I traded in my King of Fighters 94 complete box to help get the Game Boy Advance so I could scan these stupid e-reader cards into my Mario 3 for GBA. And I was looking to do that, and he didn't have any Game Boy Advances, but we were talking about like decent fighting games, and he's like, yeah, King of Fighters 94 is like okay. Mortal Kombat's fucking terrible. I was like, but you know what one is actually pretty decent? He's like, what? I was like, you know what? Killer Instinct for the Game Boy is actually pretty decent. And he actually agreed with me. He was like, yeah, that is a true statement. That one actually is pretty decent. And it really is, honestly, a pretty decent version of Killer Instinct. Because there's, well, one major thing. It's sort of enhanced if you play it on a Super Game Boy. There's only one major thing and like one minor thing that make it worth getting the Super Game Boy and playing it on the Super Game Boy, because this made that really cool to play it on the Super Game Boy because of what it did. So we're going to talk about Killer Instinct today, and of course I'll show you guys some gameplay of it. Of course, emulation, because I don't have a good way to capture footage off of direct hardware, meaning like my analog pocket or even the Game Boy player. I don't even have a Game Boy player up here right now. So you guys are just have to deal with emulated footage. You guys haven't seemed to mind that I've used emulated footage. They all do come from my personal cartridges, so I am playing my ROMs, so whatever. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video today. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and let's get on with this and talk about Killer Instinct on the Game Boy and why I still think it's worth playing today. So I first played Killer Instinct on the Game Boy years ago, emulated of course, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna play it, see how bad it is, because I assumed it was gonna be as bad as Mortal Kombat was, and I was actually really surprised. I was like, wow, this actually plays at like a normal functional speed, and when you do the moves and do like moves that you would think would work, they actually come out and work and do things. So I was really pleasantly surprised, and I liked it so much I wanted to actually own it. So I went out and bought a used copy. God, that was like almost a decade ago, and I even have a complete box copy. Hold on, I forgot to go grab it real quick. Let me go grab it. I meant to grab it. I'm an idiot. I forgot. Okay, sorry about that. Like I said, I enjoyed the game enough to where I bought a box copy of this game. So here it is. Here's the front, and you can see the Super Game Boy logo. We'll get to that in a second, what that entails. And here's the back. What's that black little speck on the box there? I'm not sure what that is. I never heard about that before. Oh well, it's still a fairly nice condition box for being an old Game Boy box and all that good stuff. But yeah, that's how much I enjoyed it. I've had the box copy for a few years. I got it at Arcade Legacy. Shout out to my buddy Jesse that owns Arcade Legacy. Super cool dude, super cool store. Love that place. If you're ever in Sharonville, Ohio, it's there, so go check it out. Anyway, I don't know why I just plugged them, but whatever. Super good dude. Super cool store. Love that place. Anyway, so I really did enjoy this game. And I believe it's missing like one character. I don't remember off the top of my head though. Because it has been a little bit since I played the game. So if I'm wrong, I'll show you guys all the characters in the gameplay. But I might be misremembering that. But I don't remember. But the thing that sold me on the game was just how well it plays and how much it still feels like Killer Instinct. Like, sure, it's not the smoothest thing in the world. And sure, it doesn't look super good. It's all like monochrome or that pea soup color, depending on what Game Boy you're playing on. Or whatever color you decide to have as your palette on the Super Game Boy or Game Boy Color, whatever system you're playing on. It doesn't look the prettiest, but man, it plays really freaking good for what it is. And plus, there's like little chip tunes of like some of the music from Killer Instinct, so it's actually like really charming too. But yeah, overall, just the gameplay itself is like super solid for a fighting game on the Game Boy. And I really enjoyed it for what it was. And I think I still would, because even though I haven't played it in a long time, I'm pretty sure I would still get enjoyment out of it. But, yeah. But the last thing we're going to talk about is the Super Game Boy functionality and features that's a Super Game Boy. Or if you're a nerd like me and you had a Super Game Boy 2 that had the link cable functionality for Pokemon trading and stuff, it only came out in Japan for some stupid ass reason. I don't know why. I still think the Super Game Boy 2 would have done well over here, but whatever. And honestly, not to harp on the Super Game Boy 2 for a little bit, but let me just address something. Why didn't they let that play Game Boy Color games? Like, you couldn't play Perfect Dark, you couldn't play Pokemon Crystal, you couldn't play Donkey Kong Country, you couldn't play NSYNC. Damn it, I wanted to play NSYNC on my Super Game Boy 2, damn it. No. To be fair, that game is terrible. No one should play that game. But anyway, going back to the Super Game Boy functionality of Killer Instinct. The coolest functionality of it is the borders. No, I'm kidding. Kidding! It's not the borders, but it is pretty cool. You get a little, like, Killer Instinct themed border. And the versus screen is like fully colored. So that's kind of cool. But the real cool functionality of the Super Game Boy is the fact that you could play multiplayer through one cartridge if you had two controllers. Yeah, that's right. You could play a freaking Game Boy game that was multiplayer that you had to play with two cartridges originally on the Super Game Boy with one cartridge and two Super Nintendo controllers. How fucking cool is that? As far as I know, there weren't many games that did that. I think maybe Street Fighter 2 did as well, but I'm not sure. And Street Fighter 2 isn't that bad either. Street Fighter 2 is actually pretty good from what I remember. Because I have that as well. I just don't have it complete. I have the loose part. I haven't played that in a while, but I'm pretty sure Street Fighter 2 has that same functionality. But that, to me, I was like, holy crap, that's really cool. So, when I had my Super Game Boy 2, when I still had it, which begs the question, I just thought of something. If you have an analog pocket, and you use the Super Game Boy core that someone made, would you be able to play it with another controller if you had a dock? Huh. I don't know. I'm gonna have to try this out. If someone knows, let me know in the comments, but I'm curious about that. But yeah, I thought that was super cool, so I tested it out, and yes, it actually does work. And if I had a real Super Game Boy, still, I would test it. I would show you guys with footage of it with my Super NT, because I would use that. But I don't have my Super Game Boy 1 or 2, because once I got the pocket and realized there was a Super Game Boy core, I was like, what the hell is the point of me having a Super Game Boy 2 anymore? Like, what's the point? There really was none. But yeah, I always thought that was a really cool functionality that I wish they would have utilized more in more games. Like, release like a Super Game Boy enhanced version of a bunch of games, like I don't know, Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3, I'm trying to think of other 2-player games. Double Dragon 2, Double Dragon 3. I don't know. None of the Double Dragon games are super good. Especially, freaking 3 was terrible on the Game Boy. I think 1's pretty bad too. I have a complete box though. Because it's Double Dragon. Why not? But yeah, I always thought that was a really cool functionality of the Super Game Boy with Killer Instinct. And I don't know, I just think it's a super solid version of the... I don't want to call it a port, because it's not really a port. It's more of a basically slimmed down version of Killer Instinct that actually functionally plays, and it feels like the game it's trying to be. It's not Mortal Kombat or Mortal Kombat 4 or something worse than that, or to a lesser extent Perfect Dark on the Game Boy Color. But I actually kind of do think Perfect Dark is kind of charming. We'll talk about that in a later video if you guys want me to talk about Perfect Dark, because I actually do kind of like that game. Not a lot though, but I still think it's kind of charming. But anyway, that'll do it for me today with this video about Killer Instinct and the Game Boy version of it. I just want to talk about it today. Didn't have anything planned for today. I'm like, you know what? Looking through my Game Boy games, I was like, yeah, let me talk about Killer Instinct on the Game Boy. It's worth talking about, and it's worth playing out there. So if you guys haven't played it yet, go check it out. If you have a Super Game Boy, and buy the game, it's pretty cheap. If you have a person to play with at your house, pop it in your Super Game Boy, grab 2 controllers, and have a good time. It's pretty fun. Anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Have a good Wednesday. And this has been Rolling with Kevin, and I am rolling out. Peace. Man, it's such a good port. Or version, whatever you want to call it. Port, version, something. It's something, man. Just go check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please don't forget to leave a like, comment down below, subscribe, click the bell button so you get notified when I upload videos, go live, or post on my community page. Shout out to my Patreon supporters: Sunny Silva, Catfish Cat, Lee Fernay, Team Dale, Elliot Scott, Preliab, Harry Fernandez, William Swift, AJ Gottawa, Oliver Friedrich, Len Ernhorn, Marcus Mahaley, Brianna, and the Pay Now Please, Nuclear Reactive Man, Rebecca H., Just Good Enough, Gorgon Kaluskovic, Justin M. Daggins, Daniel Childs, Patrick Oliver, and Harold Huckabee. Thank you guys so much for supporting my channel. If you want to support my channel, it's only $1 a month. That's all I ask. It really does help with the channel a lot. Thank you guys so much for supporting and watching. If you did enjoy this video, I'll see you guys in the next video.